completely changes the ecosystem. This action has resulted in an 80% decrease in available plankton in Lake Michigan, resulting in a near collapse of the whitefish fishery and a large decline in Chinook salmon numbers, growth rate, and size, as well as toxic algae blooms that have been responsible for killing tens of thousands of diving ducks.
What we're seeing then is a zebra mussel population comes in, it eats the good algae, which would be food for a lot of other organisms, it releases the nutrients, which the blue-green algae can then pick up and grow, and because nobody's eating the blue-green algae, their numbers can increase dramatically. And as the zebra mussels are filtering the algae out of the water, it becomes much clearer. The light will penetrate further down to the bottom. So now we can get the growth of algae that can attach to the rocks on the bottom. And what we are starting Great Lakes right now is a change in the cover of the algae community in the near-shore areas. People on Lake Huron have been complaining for the last few years about this brown, slimy material that is coating the rocks along their beaches. And then when it dies, it washes inshore, decomposes, and smells horrendously. So our poor little zooplankton now are losing the good algae that would be floating in the water column, and they're left with slimy stuff on the bottom that no one wants to utilize.
As noted earlier, when zebra or quagga mussels become established in a water body, it results in dramatic changes
to utilize.
As noted earlier, when zebra or quagga mussels become established in a water body, it results in dramatic changes to the ecology by reducing the availability of nutrients that are the building blocks necessary to support recreationally and commercially important fish species. The bottom line? Reduced numbers, growth rates, and survival equals poor fishing.
We have filtration systems on our recirculation systems for razorback suckers and bony-tailed chubs, and those filters that we use are increasingly getting clogged with quagga mussels. So that's causing more maintenance work. Just in the last 5 months since I've been at this location, we've gone to finding 1 or 2 mussels in those filters to finding thousands. So it's exponentially increasing.
We know that we have good years and bad years for our salmon stocks based on ocean conditions, based on amount of rainfall, and if we happen to have a time when we already had a stock that was being weakened for certain reasons and their populations were lower than normal, and on top of that then we layer on these effects of zebra or quagga mussels, it could be particularly devastating.
What we're expecting to see if these invasive mussels got into our state in large amounts is that you would see a sort of bottom-up effect. So there's less food available for the juvenile fish, the forage fish.
Recreational and commercial boat and marina operators effects from a zebra or quagga mussel infestation. Mussel veligers are pulled from marine engines where they attach and grow, plugging the system, overheating and ruining the engines. Large die-offs of mussels frequently occur, creating windrows of sharp-edged shells that can cover the beach and lake bottoms and close areas to recreation.
They will get on their hulls. This creates drag on the hull. It's going to increase fuel costs because of that drag. They're going to get on the outdries, plug cooling intakes, which will overheat engines. There was one came out the other day, a 40-foot Baja came out, and he came out of his slip, loaded it on the trailer. If he'd have decided he'd like to have taken a tour around the lake before loading on the trailer, he'd have been in the middle of the lake with overheated engines. His intakes are over 95% plugged.
Earlier in the year, we moved them. The up lake end hadn't been they hadn't really noticed quagga and zebra mussel in the upper end, the Overton arm. So the boats that we took up there all had to be pulled out and decontaminated up in the parking lots before we moved them up the lake. On a constant basis, we're shuffling boats around, and every time we pull one, we decontaminate it, spray it down for mussels.
They're going to present a problem to our visitors when they actually have started showing up on the beaches, but they're in low numbers. But as the water level drops and we get into those areas where there's higher concentrations of them, then they're going to start showing up on the beaches, and that's going to be a problem.
Locks, docks, boat lifts, and navigation buoys are also favorite hangouts for zebra and quagga mussels, resulting in increased maintenance and replacement costs.
Mussels are usually start about 5 feet below the surface of the water. you start getting the mussel growth. And the reason why they start there is because we get heavy ice here in this harbor, so they tend not to survive in that. Below 5 feet to the mud line, which is usually about 30 feet below the surface of the water, so we got about a 25-foot zone, you usually get 100% coverage of zebra mussels over every surface. They will grow on wood, they will grow on steel, rubber, glass, pretty much anything that's in the harbor at the bottom they'll grow on.
The culture of the West is rich and diverse. It values and celebrates natural resources, ingenuity, outdoors. It is closely tied to land and water resources and their sustainable use. Zebra and quagga mussels are a threat to those resources and values. And for the Native American tribes of the West, water, wildlife, and fishing are synonymous with life itself.
The tribes fish both commercially and for subsistence and ceremonial use. The salmon are essentially the keystone of their being. Without the salmon, they would cease to exist as a mussels or zebra mussels invading and colonizing the system. Both mainstream and nursery habitat could be affected. Passage for adults could be affected. By adhering to the physical structures that the fish are required to pass through at the dams could essentially become killing machines for these fish because of the sharp-edged shells lining the fishways where the adults would pass and clogging and changing the flows for the bypass system that the juveniles use.
The consequences of a zebra or quagga mussel invasion are devastating and far-reaching, affecting every citizen in some way. All water users need to be concerned and work together with federal, state, and local lawmakers to find ways to prevent the further spread of these invaders, to protect the West's economy, ecology, and cultural resources. This is one of those rare cases where traditional competitors for limited water supplies in the West can join forces, because there are no winners where zebra or quagga mussels are concerned, only losers. The time for action is now.
Through a comprehensive program that features prevention through public education, watercraft inspection, monitoring, and laws and enforcement, we've been able to prevent the spread and contain the spread of aquatic invasive species in the state of Minnesota. In 1989, zebra mussels were found at our doorstep, but we only have 4 inland lakes now with zebra mussels.
Aquatic invasive species, zebra mussels in particular, can be controlled with the right kind of program that involves education, information, access management, inspections, letting the boating public, the stakeholders, if you will, know how to prevent the spread of aquatic invasive species.
The crisis is now at our doorstep, and legislators, decision makers, state and federal agencies are hearing from their constituents that, hey, what are we doing to stop this before it comes in to our waters? They see it's right next door and we need to move.
You know, the fact is, to be perfectly honest, this is not an issue that is high on the radar screen of your average senator or member of the House of Representatives. But the fact is, if you're a fisherman or a boater, it needs to be high on your personal radar screen, and you need then to make this important to your representative. The way you do that is you write letters, make phone calls, or go to a town meeting. Now that may seem, most folks may not ever have done that, but I guarantee if you show up at a town meeting and you say, Congressman or Congresswoman, this is a real problem. It could cost our region hundreds of billions of dollars over a long period of time. It could ruin fishing, water supplies, agriculture. What are you personally, and what is the Congress doing to address this? You'll have an impact. Follow up then, because it really makes a difference. And if you don't raise it, it's not going to appear on a poll. There's not going to be a political action committee making contributions about it, and it certainly won't be in a campaign ad. But it may have a lot to do with whether you can fish in the future, whether your water rates double or triple, or whether your farms have adequate water to feed the crops.